In cash terms, the local authority spending power will increase to about 45 billion by the end of, well, by 1990, I was going to say by the end of this Parliament, but it won't be now, it'll be a bit longer than that, by 2019-20. Now, in Derbyshire's accounts, if you like, Derbyshire County Council, they hold reserves about £233 million. And I know we've heard a lot about the cuts that Derbyshire have had to make because of lack of funding, but actually they've put £7 million into council reserves this year, which I can understand any organisation needing reserves. We should all have reserves. We're doing our own private lives if we can. But £233 million is a huge amount of money, and actually to put £7 million into reserves, when actually that could have been used to eliminate some of the cuts that have impacted in children's services and adult care. They've also moved 1.1 million from earmark reserves to general reserves. Again, that would have actually prevented some of the cuts that to make.
I don't think you're answering that.
But in terms of the question, yes, the funding arrangement that we do with the local authorities, I agree with. And I think, you know, when we came to power in 2010, the country was spending £150 billion a year more than it was getting in. So we had to make economies. It was, you know, and I understand it. It's not been easy, it's been difficult. But we do agree with trying to give local authorities, whether it be the county council or the district council, give them more power, more responsibilities to do things the way they feel they should be done at a local level.
Thank you. Ruth George, if I could ask you, I noticed that your manifesto says a Labour government will give local government extra funding next year, which is a bit of a broad brush statement. Any idea how much and where that money will come from?
I'll address that. Thank you. And yes, what Andrew didn't mention was that Derbyshire County Council's budget was cut between 2010 and 2016 by £169 million has come out of the council funding. Social care is by far the largest element of Derbyshire's budget, and the Labour administration for the last 4 years has protected those social care services as much as they can, keeping the care homes in council ownership so that care can be delivered in the cheapest possible way. But the number of people with eligible care needs in Derbyshire rose from 33,000 in 2010, it's almost 38,000 now, and it's set to grow further, of course, over the next few years. But we are due to see by 2021 a further £109 million cut from Derbyshire's budget, which is why it's actually very sensible that the administration has been putting aside money into reserves, because though as much has been cut as can be, and those reserves are going to be needed over the next 4 years to protect the core services that people completely rely on, and none of us want to see our elderly and vulnerable people suffering because of those cuts. So, Labour will support the most vital services that the councils run, and we will put the additional funding into that. An additional £8 billion over the lifetime of the next Parliament for social care, including £1 billion to plug the gap in the first year. Nearly £4 million has been cut from youth service nationally, and we will end those cuts to youth services. And the Sure Start children's centres were one of the greatest achievements of the previous Labour government. I've actually been hearing from the health visitors in New Mills how atrocious it is now that they get vulnerable families and they have nowhere to refer them to give them support. So we will protect Sure Start, ensure that no more centres have to close, and invest in as many more services as we can.
Charles Lawley, your manifesto says that the Lib Dems would drastically reduce the powers of central government ministers to interfere in democratically elected local government. Isn't the main way that they interfere through the purse strings at the moment?
Absolutely, and what we would do is, in an ideal world, we would give them great financial responsibility. We'd give them great say schools, where new schools are being built, and school admissions and transport network. But this, also what we do is we put a lot more money into social care and housing. We'd actually integrate social care with the NHS. Into housing in particular, the Lib Dems would build 300,000 homes a year and allow local authorities to borrow more to do this, as well as allow them to increase council tax by 200% on empty homes. There's over 1,000 people waiting for a council house in High Peak and over 500 empty homes. But this is all academic, as unfortunately, the hard Brexit that we are heading towards will lead to a fall in confidence in investment in the UK and companies choosing to relocate, this will slow growth, lessen the tax receipts, and this will mean there's less money in the pot and more people will be dependent on the state as jobs go. A hard Brexit will inevitably lead to cuts to local services, and only by us staying in the single market can any government promise an increase in funding to any local services.